It's Wes. Welcome to this video. Today I'm gonna recant, take back, deny, modify the words that I shared about the Canon EOS RP. I was wrong. And what I love about the YouTube community is you all jumped in and shared your input, corrected some misunderstandings I had, added some information, and I even had a friend, Carlos Ray, a photographer I've gone out to shoot landscape photography with in Southern California. He actually contributed a video with some of his top tips and suggestions. So without further ado, you're a beautiful person and a good person. And if no one has told you that today, let me be the first person to tell you that. All right, in this video, we're gonna go first through the errors, the miscalculations, the misunderstandings, the mistakes that I made about the Canon EOS RP, and we're gonna correct those. And then we'll get into one YouTube user. He sent me his custom setup tips. We're gonna share that. And we're gonna hear from Carlos Ray about his top 3 reasons that he chooses the Canon EOS RP, and also his top suggestions and considerations if you're looking at this camera for you. All right, so recently I got my hands on the Canon EOS RP. It's been a few months since then, but this video got a lot of comments and I really appreciated the people that chimed in. And so I wanted to address them by name and talk about the value that they added to the video that I made. The sharing of knowledge in a spirit of kind-heartedness and good-heartedness, like I found on this video, it reminds me of a better world, and you are all making that happen. So thank you for tuning in. And so I'm gonna set you straight, after I set me straight, on some points I got wrong about the Canon EOS RP. So my mistakes: focus hunting. At one point I held the camera up and the RF 35mm lens was hunting and pecking and hunting and pecking. That's annoying. I was just sort of watching it. So here is some information from YouTube username CoolOoks. Focus hunting is due to having continuous autofocus turned on, okay? And so you go to the first tab, the camera icon, page 7, second to last item, and you can turn that on, turn that off. It's not servo mode, which is a setting that has the camera permanently focusing. So even when you're not touching the shutter button. So you can change that, you can turn that off. Now, another reason to turn it off, he adds, is it runs down the battery. While you just might be holding your camera and it's focusing, it's running down the battery and driving you nuts at the same time. This is a setting in all EOS cameras, and so that is a great tip, and thank you for setting me straight. Now on the same subject, YouTube username Jerry Suarez de Real, hopefully I said that right, he says the annoying thing on the lens is because I have it in autofocus. This is another perspective. I could have just switched to manual focus and it would have stopped. So that is another good point. That's why it's always searching, because I have it in autofocus. That's in my control and I could have changed that. So thank you, Jerry. Now, I had expressed some bummers, some woes around the mode selection. I'll call them mode selection woes. And so this is one issue, and it had 3 solutions or 3 points of view. So thank you to the YouTube community. And this is why I love the YouTube community so much. So the question I had is, when I choose a mode in video mode, I select and then I get all the modes shown to me when I switch into video mode. I select one, and then I want to change. I have to select, I thought, go to photo mode, back to video mode, then I get all my selections again, and that is wrong. I thought, wow, that's really inconvenient, but somebody had the answer. This is YouTuber username Andrew Does Hair. He says, you can disable the mode guide if it bugs you. So that was a great tip. Now, Jerry Suarez de Real, again, back with the same good information he shared earlier. He said, the mode button is not on the RP, just like the mode button is not on the R6, but the R5. So the RP has mode selection on the screen, but not on the button, and the R6 has mode selection on the screen for video and not on the button like the R5 does. So that's actually one of the reasons, a feature that made me choose the R5 over the R6. So good information from Jerry, thank you again. And then we actually have another solution from YouTube username Mal Media. Hopefully I'm saying that right. Just click the Q button. The Q button, the quick menu, will bring back the video mode selection screen. So there you go. You can disable it, hit the Q button, or you can choose a different camera and get one that has the mode button like the R5 or the EOS R. Now, let's get into custom setup tips. These are from Cool Ooks, YouTube username. He says he has the RRP and he's customized all of the buttons for fast, easy use. And this is his photography setup. On the 4-way joypad, he has the up arrow triggering picture styles. The left arrow is server or one-shot AF or autofocus. The down arrow makes the autofocus point active. So now the 4 arrows move the autofocus point, and the right arrow is the drive mode, single, continuous, high-speed, continuous, and self-timers. Those are great tips for photography, and I wish I had used them and known that when I had the EOS RP in my hands. So now he goes on to say other buttons that he customizes. The Q set button, he says he uses that for autofocus point types, single, spot, tracking, and zones. The autofocus on button, he uses that to toggle eye detection on or off. The autofocus selection button he uses for picture quality. The exposure lock button he uses for depth of field preview. The record button, he uses that to turn on the Wi-Fi menu. The multifunction button, he uses that to toggle the rear LCD or electronic viewfinder. So great setup tips. Now, here's another comment from YouTube username Kulux. You can use custom tabs too. You can name them and have the camera go straight to them by default when you hit the menu button. So the camera will default to the last item you changed in the custom tab. Great tip. I didn't have it for that long to explore that. I actually need to do that on my R5, kind of dial that, the custom tabs in too. All right, so on to another tip from YouTube username Alex McCabe. He asked, this is not a tip, but a question and a clarification. Can you use the touch screen with gloves on? And he says this is a relevant question in cold climates or cold countries. So my perspective is you won't be able to use it with gloves on unless you have a special type of gloves. Like I've had a pair of gloves where the fingertip of the index finger is thinner material or some sort of special material just to allow you to use your cell phone. But it might be finicky in cold weather, and so I would say no. If you have gloves on, it's going to be very difficult to use the touchscreen. All right, now back to another tip from YouTube username Mal Media. You can lock the shutter down by manually initiating the sensor cleaning mode and turning it off after you hear the first click. So you can lock the shutter button down. That's a great tip. And now we're gonna hear from my friend Carlos Ray. Now he gave me a few minutes of information about the RP. I think this is super valuable. And so we're gonna watch this and I'm just gonna react as he gives us his information. First, Carlos is gonna tell us about 3 reasons he thinks the RP deserves your attention. Let's hear from Carlos.
recover, regardless of how expensive your equipment is. But highlight recovery in this is fantastic. Shadow recovery, on the other hand, is not very good. It'll get you about one stop without breaking apart. After one stop, 1 1/3, you start getting a lot of noise and a lot of specks, colored specks and whatnot. So I don't recommend pushing it higher than 1.5 stops or 1 1/3 stops. But I expose to the right and then bring it down so that I can adjust my shadows and my highlights and everything else as I need to without making any real sacrifices to the images. And I'll share with Wes two specific shots where you can see the significance in bringing down the highlights and being able to maintain some great shadow detail.
And the bonus feedback. Let's hear the bonus feedback.
And lastly, I think the one thing that I'll say, maybe a little controversial, the battery's not that bad, guys. You actually have, I can actually get with the standard battery, the stock battery from the camera, about 450 shots, including some long exposures. And I bought some aftermarket batteries. I think it was like 2 for $20 or $25 from Amazon. And between the 3 batteries that I have, I actually get to shoot somewhere around 1,500 shots, which is more than I would ever really require on any given daily shoot. But again, the batteries are so small and so easy to carry that, in fact, here I have in a small SD card holder, I have 2 SD cards in the front here and my 2 batteries in the back. And I can actually just take this, slip it in my back pocket, go out with my camera on a strap, and it's perfectly fine. It's not too big to carry. So really enjoy it. It's not as bad as it seems. And for the camera that you get for under $1,000, there really isn't any camera for a beginner or even an intermediate shooter out there that would not benefit from a Canon RP. I hope those tips helped. I hope my point of view maybe will help somebody make a decision on the RP. It's a great camera, and I'm pretty sure you'll thoroughly enjoy it. All right, guys. Thank you.
So that's great. The battery is better than you might think. Let's see some sample shots from Carlos Ray Photography. Well, that's it. Thank you for joining me. Hopefully this has added information, added insight from other people in the YouTube community and the photography community to help you consider the EOS RP or use it to its maximum potential. Thank you for joining me. Hit subscribe if you're not subscribed, hit like, and leave me a comment. Let me know where you're watching this from, whether you have the Canon EOS RP or are thinking about it, and let me know how your day's going. Talk to you later. Bye. Peace.